Welcome to this meeting of the Swansea Bay City Deal Joint Committee being held on Thursday, the 27th of November. So we'll move on to the agenda straight away then. So apologies for absence. I've got apologies from Councillor Rob Stewart, but we have Councillor Andrea Williams stepping in to represent Swansea. So welcome, Andrea. I've got apologies from Jan Wilkes, I think it is. My apologies. Jan Williams. Sorry, Alison, from Swansea Bay University Health Board, Professor Paul Boyle from Swansea University, and Neil Woodin from Haldar Health Authority. Don't think we have any more apologies. No. Okay. We'll move on then to declarations of interest, agenda item 2. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? And if so, could you identify the nature of the interest and whether it's personal or prejudicial? I can see John has his hand up. John?
Chair, just to note as well, Wendy Waters will be in the meeting. She will be late. Just to note.
That's right. Yes, she did. Yeah. She did tell me, John. Apologies. Yeah.
But declarations of interest. So personal declaration of interest for item number 9 around the portfolio review and the city deal review. So if there's any discussion, I may have to exit the meeting and then rejoin once those discussions are finished.
Okay, thank you, John. And obviously it'll be up to yourself whether you feel it's appropriate to leave or not, but I'll leave that in your hands if we get into discussion about that in any particular detail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so no more declarations of interest then. So we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. This was the meeting held on the 21st of October 2025. I'm happy to move those minutes. Could I have a seconder? Steve?
Yeah, I'll be second.
Okay, that's lovely. Can we just, by way of a show of hands, show we're all in agreement to approve those?
Yeah, I won't vote on that as I wasn't leader then. Okay.
Of course, Linda, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so those are approved. Agenda item 4 then, Chair's announcements. I have no announcement other than to welcome Councillor Linda Davis-Evans to the meeting. So welcome, Linda. I'm not sure if this is your first City Deal meeting, but...
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay,
yes.
Nice to see you here, Linda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Agenda item 5, public questions. Alison, I'm not aware we have any public questions coming in this morning.
No, we haven't received any public questions.
Okay, that's great. So we'll move on to the agenda proper then. Agenda item 6, which is the Audit Wales Assurance and Risk Assessment. So I'd like to welcome Jason Williams from Audit Wales, I believe, to introduce this report. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present today this report to you. I'll be brief in it. So we did the report earlier this year, and it looked at the Swansea Bay City Deal Audit Wales Action Plan, which was set in November last year. So since June 2024, the City Deal has made progress in addressing the areas for resolution that we set out. Of the 16 priority actions that were set in there, 5 are complete, 4 embedded in business as usual, and 5 are in progress. In June of 2025, at the time of our review, 2 of the areas were not started. An example resolution was at AW02, the City Deal has replaced GVA as the impact measure with an evaluation framework, the outputs of which this board and the committee do receive. With regards to challenges and risks, there are some challenges highlighted. The City Deal's progress to address the areas for resolution has been slower than planned. Reporting gaps. Updates to the Joint Committee that were produced and provided have been incomplete, with some reports covering only 3 of the 16 actions that were stated. Then the scrutiny timing. Some of the Joint Scrutiny Committee meetings would often occur after decisions were made, and that limits their effectiveness as a scrutiny committee. Then going on to recommendations. To address these issues, we made one recommendation, and that was that the City Deal should ensure that progress reports to the Joint Committee and the Joint Scrutiny Committee would provide a comprehensive assessment of progress against all resolutions, or a clear explanation as to why this is not the case. So in closing, In summary, the City deal it's delivered progress, but transparency and timely reporting are seen as important to ensure there's effective oversight. And that is in addressing the recommendation will ensure confidence and accountability as the City deal moves forward. I'll confirm that I can confirm to the members that the management response form that was provided to us meets our Code of Audit Practice requirements, and it shows proper consideration of our audit findings and recommendations. That's the gist of it. I'll now hand over to the Portfolio Director.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jason. John, I'll bring you in. Thank you.
There's not a lot really to add to what Jason's covered. That was quite comprehensive. In terms of the in progress and to be actioned, the general theme of those, not all of them, but most of them, are around the Corporate Joint Committee and the City deal merger convergence and the review that is underway. So hopefully within the next quarter or so, we will have some clarity on those. But the actions which are now presented to the board have been updated for all open areas of resolution. And we're going to continue reporting those quarterly. Chair, if you want me to, I can go through each of those actions, but I think the report is quite self-explanatory and Jason's already dipped into a few of those areas. So I'm happy with the summary. We would like to have approval of the action plan. And then, as I said, we'll continue monitoring and reporting that on a quarterly basis.
Okay, thank you very much for that, John. I'll open up to any questions or comments from any members on this one, either for Jason or John directly. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just very briefly, when you mentioned the merger and you said further details will come forward, I think it's important that we have sight of how the mechanics, what it's going to look like, where the merger or time frames or things like that, John. You know, because it's understanding how the financial support, perhaps for the Swansea Bay Joint Committee, does that move over into the CJCs? I think it's for us to be accountable and be able to answer any particular questions. We probably need sight of it. It's early days, I imagine, but things are moving quickly. And like I said in the last meeting, as changing in politicalness, I think we need to be in a position of understanding more. That's all. You touched on it when you said about the merger, so I just want to reaffirm, and maybe you can put my mind at ease that this is necessary and it's the reason why we're doing it, etc. And I have seen some of the reasons in the reports, but being as I got you, I was going to pin you down on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. John?
To respond, I'm part of that review process, so I don't think I can really add too much to that. But Deb is reporting an update on the review process a little bit later in the meeting. But yeah, I think in due course, what has been committed to is that governments will be involved in the process and reports will go both on the CJC side and the City deal side of governance. Deb, do you want to add anything to that? Because I'm probably not the best person to update.
I think it's all going to be covered in the report that's later on in the agenda, Leader, if that's okay. We can pick up any specific questions at that point.
Thanks, Deb. Sorry, I always jumped the gun. Apologies for that.
No problem, Steve. We'll pick it up later in further down the agenda if you're happy to do so. Thank you. So any further questions or comments on the audit report? No, just one from me, if I may, either to Jason or to John. I noticed the point about scrutiny committees, and I think it's a very valid point you made there about reports going to scrutiny, perhaps after decisions have been made, which isn't probably the best form of governance. Has that been dealt with, or will that be dealt with going forward now?
So I believe, Deb, this is part of your report, and I think scrutiny is part of that mix in terms of there probably will be one regional scrutiny committee. Deb, do you want to mention?
Yes, there'll be a disbanding of the City deal scrutiny committee, and all the scrutiny functions will be carried out then by the CJC joint scrutiny committee. So yes, there'll be a delegation of the function across to the CJC. But I think the report was highlighting some issues around more the timing of reports, I think. So that's something that will have to be picked up by the new CJC Joint Regional Scrutiny Committee in due course.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, well, if there's no further comments, then this is a report for approval, and the recommendations, two recommendations. One, that the Joint Committee receives the Audit Wales Assurance and Risk Assessment as at Appendix A, and two, agrees the action plan at Appendix B. So I'm happy to move those recommendations. Could I get a seconder, please?
Happy to second, John.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. And if we could just show if we are all in favour. Okay, I think that's all been approved. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jason, for your input and your work on this one. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on then to agenda item 7, which is the internal audit terms of reference. And forgive me, I'll just get the report up in front of me here. Okay, and I understand that this is one for Charlotte to introduce, but I'm not sure if Charlotte's in the meeting, Debbie.
Yeah, I'm here. Oh,
sorry, apologies, missed you. Okay. Sorry, Charlotte,
That's
how are you doing? Okay,
hi,
thank you.
Good morning. I'm Charlotte Hodges. I'm the Internal Audit and Counter Fraud Manager for Pembrokeshire County Council. The report presented outlines the terms of reference that I'll be asking the Joint Committee to approve to allow the annual internal audit review of Swansea Bay City Deal for 2025-26 to be undertaken. The terms of reference details the areas the internal audit review will focus on, which are separately listed within section 2. The broad areas that we will review includes governance, project management and monitoring, financial management and risk management arrangements in place, along with the follow-up of previous recommendations. The work programme has been prepared in accordance with the requirements of the Global Internal Audit Standard, the Global Internal Audit Standards in the UK Public Sector Application Note, and the Code of Practice for the Governance of Internal Audit in UK in Local Government. The work programme has been developed in consultation with key officers and has been considered by the programme board prior to submission to the Joint Committee for approval today. I anticipate that the field work will begin early 2026, and will be completed by the end of March 2026. We will follow our normal reporting procedures, allowing the draft report to be considered by officers before the final report is presented to the Joint Committee for approval and noting. I would therefore like to request that the Joint Committee endorses the proposed 2025-26 internal audit terms of reference. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Charlotte. I can see Chris has got his hand up. Chris.
Yeah, just for confirmation, John, and for the other members that, as Charlotte has said, that both John and myself have actually discussed these terms of reference with Charlotte, and they've been done by agreement in advance of this meeting, so they're quite acceptable to us. Diolch.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, thanks again, John. Only me again, sorry. With the new financial management, I just want to know about the strength. I'm always talking about money, and I should be a banker, I think. But the private sector investment, given the where we are in the world today, I suppose, and in UK, Wales, and our region, how strong is the private sector investment? I don't know if you can answer that question potentially, Charlotte, but I think it's key to bringing in private investment. I just wondered whether in reports, have you got any indication how strong the private sector are to work in partnership? Obviously, they'll want something out of it when they ever invest, of course. But I just wondered what does that looking like? Is it robust, etc.? Thank you, John.
Thanks, Steve. I can see Chris has got his hand up. Are you going to answer that one, Chris? Or
yeah, I'll come in. To be fair to Charlotte, difficult for her to answer before she's done the review, but she may have an opinion on it after the review. But before the review, it's the private sector investment is coming back to the principle around the city deal originally, where effectively we had grant coming in from UK government and Welsh government of 240 million, but the whole project was around about 1.2 billion, and there's a significant element of that is private sector. It is monitored, and it will come up later in the report, where Steve is actually going to take us through the financial management report, and he will highlight where it is at the moment, and the profile has changed from day one, but he'll go through that in a bit more detail later on.
Oh, sorry about that, John. I done it again, didn't I? Everything I'm asking is in the report later on. Sorry.
No problem.
We'll start the agenda at the end, shall we, and work backwards? That might be easier for you, Steve. Okay. Right, thank you for that, Chris. So any further comments or questions on this particular report for either Charlotte or Chris? No. Okay, so again, this is a report for approval with the recommendation stating it's recommended that the internal audit terms of reference 2526 be endorsed. So again, I'm more than happy to move that recommendation. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, John.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. If we could show all in favour. Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to agenda item 8, which is the Pentra Owl progress update. And I believe this is either down to yourself, Richard, or to Alex to introduce.
Yep, so thank you very much for inviting us here today. So I'm Alex Williams. A lot of you know me mostly from previous lives as opposed to my current role, but I'm Alex Williams, Head of Health-Related Capital Projects for Carmarthenshire, and as part of my role, I'm overall strategic lead supporting Chris in his role as SRO for the Pentra Owl project. So you've had a report, but we're going to give a brief presentation. I'm hoping this time it's not going to crash in the way it did the programme board last week, but we'll see how we go. So Richard's just sharing the slides, and I'll then go into the presentation. Okay, so yes, so thank you, as I said, thank you very much for inviting us here today. So we're just going to give you a brief update where we have got to. So I'm not quite sure how much you are all aware of the wider Pentra Owl project, but essentially it's made up of 4 distinct zones, as we've called them up until now. The first zone is the hub, the central part of the development, which we've literally just opened to the public 5 weeks ago. And then the future phases are a mixture of a nursing home, extra care, assisted living, and hotel development with some further business expansion space. So in terms of Canolfan, then zone 1, so it was £96 million of total investment, £40 million of which came from the city deal, the rest being matched by Carmarthenshire County Council. Bouygues were our lead contractor on the first building. It was handed back to us back in September. And we've now brought in a new contractor, WB Griffiths, to carry out further fit-out work within the building. It's a sizable building. I'm not sure if any of you have had the opportunity to go there yet, but 20,000 square metres of space. It's essentially 5 buildings interconnected by the fantastic central atrium area with a cafe and communal seating area. It's fully operated, managed and owned by Carmarthenshire County Council, but very clearly a partnership project with a number of key partners. And as I said, we opened to the public on the 15th of October. So this is the bit where it might crash, but I hope not. So it's a little video. Oh, it's working, which just gives you the kind of imagery of the site as it is now, having opened to the public. Oh, I think I spoke too soon about the crashing.
Is there meant to be volume with it as well, Alice?
There is sound, but yeah, not coming across, is it?
No, it's hanging, it is at the moment.
I've got a backup plan, bear with me, everybody. Apologies.
Thanks, Rich.
I'm impressed, Richard. Always good to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
This particular video seems to be my kryptonite. I will bear with me, everybody.
Seems to be working fine other than the volume.
Yeah, sound's not working for some reason, but yeah.
It's muted, that's why. Richard, if you go back to the screen, you can see it in the right corner and tick the mute. There you go.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
It should work now anyway.
It's only background music, so you can get the context of it.
Yeah, it's not happy, is it? Okay, if we go back to the slides, then I think probably we'll go back to the slides. Apologies for that. We're gonna have to work on the the problem with the video. So just in terms of then Canolfan and sort of where exactly we're at. So the kind of key bits that have opened to date are the leisure facilities, cafe and meeting rooms, as well as the central area. Swansea University space is complete. We're currently in discussions with Swansea University colleagues surrounding kind of what that space is going to be used for, and they're having further discussions with how our colleagues surrounding that as well. And then the Health Board Clinical Delivery Unit is due to open in late next year, and that's a range of community-based facilities, as well as their research and development arm are moving over from other premises within the Health Board area, as well as the sleep and ventilatory service from Prince Philip Hospital is also relocating. The building itself is open from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Weekends. We're seeing really good footfall throughout those hours, essentially, which is really, really positive. We've got dedicated facilities management on site, and we've just appointed Chief Operating Officer, Mags Pullen. She's due to start on the 8th of December, which is a great addition to the team. At the moment, we've got 55% occupancy and target for 90% occupancy by the end of year 3. And kind of a lot of work has been done on active travel and bus service operational. Bus stops comes into site 9 times a day. There are EV charging points also within the car park. So just to give you a little bit of imagery that we'll share the link to the video so you can have a look at that following the meeting. But this is the hydrotherapy pool. So this is being delivered in partnership with Howard University Health Board. So they will operate it within sort of Monday to Friday for clinical use within the day, and the rest of the time that we will let out the space to other groups that want to use it. So in terms of the Health Board Clinical Delivery Unit then, so as I mentioned, WB Griffiths have now started the fit out works. The Health Board have signed their agreement to lease a range of different clinical activity taking place, mostly front-facing community clinics. And we're also in discussions at the moment via Swansea Bay University Health Board about the potential for Canolfan being the centre for regional pathology in the region, which is a really exciting development. So we're currently on a shortlist of 3 sites that they are looking at for that option. So this just kind of gives you a very detailed plan, but it's just the plan of the Health Board space, and as well as a visualization of one of the multi-purpose therapy rooms that will be located within their demise. And further artist suppression of some more of the treatment rooms that they will be using. And then this just gives an example of sort of finished space. This is one of the Swansea University's consultation rooms, so ready to go, essentially. So in terms of the education and training side of things, I think this area is perhaps less developed as part of the project, but I think we've had some really good discussions of late about how we move this forward. The whole principle behind education and training is very much a kind of along lines of a teach and treat model. So essentially placing students in a live clinical setting for their practical learning alongside teaching on the site as well. So as I mentioned, Swansea University have signed their lease. They've got a range of clinical treatment rooms, classroom, seminar, multi-purpose breakout space, and we're working with them alongside Hawddar to look at how that space will be utilised with a view to getting that open to the public pretty soon, hopefully. And then we've got discussions ongoing both with UWTSD and colleagues Cigar, alongside other colleagues in Cardiff Metropolitan University about a potential of a wider education and training offer. So we're hoping to access a small amount of funding to take that through the sort of feasibility stage and work up those proposals. And then from the business side of things, that we've got further space. The top floor was originally earmarked for business innovation space, slightly contingent on what agreement we're able to reach with regional pathology. But we've identified the sort of the areas of types of businesses that we want to target. And it's very much aligned to the whole ethos behind Pentrawl, which is a model which really supports people along the 5 stages of life, really from a cradle to grave type approach and supporting any aspect of health and well-being. We're working with Savills and BP2 as commercial property agents to help us sell the space and offering a range of different options in terms of fitted out space as well as shell and core areas which a larger organisation can come and fit out for themselves, and then collaborative hot desking space as well. So we issued a marketing brochure a year ago now. We're in the process of updating that marketing brochure and we'll be having a sort of business open day in January to further promote the space. But we've made good progress already. We've had a large number of inquiries. We've signed 3 heads of terms to date. So, you know, it's really promising, really, considering we've only literally just opened, and it's much easier sell now we've opened and people can physically see what potentially they're buying into. And this just gives them CGI imagery of what the completed business innovation space will look like. We've agreed to do a certain amount of fit out speculatively with a view to having a sort of show suites available to show prospective tenants. And as part of that, we are involving those organisations that have already signed heads of terms as part of that design journey. So just to talk then briefly around the community benefits. So inevitably with the contract the size that we had with Bouygues, there were kind of key targets within there around community benefits. Really pleasing to note that Bouygues significantly exceeded their targets. So from a targeted recruitment and training perspective, 130% of their contracted targets person weeks were delivered. The really good news stories in terms of education and the pupil engagement. So Bouygues did 2 exercises with local school children and local schools where they asked them to design the first exercise that was a room in the building. The second was around the future hotel development. And as part of that, they designed the finished product and had access to all of Bouygues experts to help advise them. And then there was a Dragon Dens approach to judge the best design, essentially, but really positive engagement there. And then to talk to sort of wider sort of economic impact then. So from a supply chain perspective, again, really good news stories. 75% of all spend on the project has been via Welsh subcontractors. Where it hasn't been spent in Wales, it's simply because Wales don't supply the products that have been bought, essentially. And then there's been even really local benefit as well in the immediate SA postcode area. We've seen £6 million worth of spend within that very local area. And we've kind of done quite a lot of work kind of trying to estimate the wider social value, and we estimate that Bouygues have delivered over £35 million of wider social value. And I think all of this has started to be recognised through a couple of awards that we've now received. So we had the CW Wales Award back in June, but we recently also won a Go Wales award as well for social value. So just to talk very briefly then around future zones. So, clearly we've had a real key focus on Zone 1 and Canolfan and getting to the point of opening to the public, but we haven't lost sight of the future development and the wider ambition of the project. So from a Zone 2 and 3 perspective, so that's the nursing home, extra care, and the business expansion side of things. We had the outline planning consent extended for further 5 years at the end of last year, and we've started to relook at the kind of initial concept designs for that part of the development, and we're just in the process of engaging through Grease, our project manager, on the site, a firm of architects to support us to take those initial concept designs to RIBA stage 2, and also look at the feasibility alongside operating models. So that will allow us to get a much greater understanding of the overall cost and potential procurement route moving forward. And we anticipate that part of the development is probably from now until completion about 4 years from now. And then from a Zone 4 perspective, so this is predominantly the hotel development with some executive housing alongside it. But we've been in an ongoing competitive dialogue process with an interested party to develop a 4-star hotel. That's going really, really positively. And we're getting to kind of very detailed stage in terms of what that deal might look like, and a little of work on the capital and revenue modelling. So again, we're hoping to move forward and to get to the sort of final stage of that process early into next year. And again, we'd be looking about from 4 years from now in terms of a kind of an open hotel. So this just kind of gives you some the concept designs around the assisted living side of things. So essentially the hub building, so Canolfan is on your right hand side, and the concepts that we're looking at for the nursing home, extra care, assisted living development is 3 modular buildings. The building on the right being the nursing home and the extra care, and then the 2 further modular buildings being assisted living units to rent and to buy. So as I said, we've had agreement to move to RIBA stage 2. Initially, we're looking at it for Block A and Block B, but we'd have the option to build out the Block C in the fullness of time if there was sufficient demand to allow us to do that. So it's a really positive step forward. The idea behind the whole complex is there'll be shared facilities and economies of scale by building it all together. And I think most importantly, certainly from my perspective, sort of background in kind of operational health and social care, a care model that spreads across the whole, which allows much greater economies of scale, which is something with extra care facilities traditionally where we struggled a bit in terms of making the concept work. So you can just see the sort of CGI imagery from a concept design perspective, just sort of playing in the top left-hand side of the screen. Yeah, and lovely yacht on the lake. We think that's perhaps a little bit ambitious, but we can't rule anything out. And then just from a wider governance perspective, really important to mention, I suppose, from a risk and assurance perspective, the kind of key risks that we are managing and mitigating. So kind of a key part of the risk has obviously focused on Zone 1 and on Canolfan, and I think we're getting as the first risk we've highlighted, we're getting to the latter end of that, hopefully, in terms of hopefully fully fitted out building. Clearly a challenge in terms of how we fill the remaining space and ensuring that we're able to reach that target of 90% occupancy by the end of 3 years to make sure that the building is fully sustainable. And linked to that, then that allows us to generate the income both from rent and service charge to essentially pay our bills. And then I think, as we move forward further with further scoping of zones 2, 3 and 4, clearly having a robust business case and ensuring that it all stacks up is really critical to allow us to move forward with those future phases. I think just important to highlight one key risk at the moment, which I know is a risk that affects partners on the meeting today, but unfortunately we do fall within one of the areas affected by the NRW planning guidance. So there's some work that we need to do around the kind of securing of particularly the planning consent around the hotel. A little bit of a debate ongoing because we do have the outline planning consent on the rest of the site. Would we be able to determine that through reserved matters, but that's a sort of particular challenge that we're trying to work through at the moment. And then from an insurance perspective, there is a gateway review proposed for April of next year. And yes, that's it. So is any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Very comprehensive update. Really appreciate that. It's great to see some of the visuals there, and even if we didn't have sound with the video, just the sort of the fly past is great. And I visited the scheme before it was open sometime last year. I can't remember, and on site it's very, very impressive. So it's good to see it now open in part at least. Steve, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, John. Lovely to see you again, Alex.
Yes.
And thank you for that presentation. It shows what proper investment and having the right people can deliver, isn't it? What a fantastic project Pentre Awel is, and with the plans for the future. I just wanted to pick up on the risks, as you mentioned at the end of your presentation, because they are real, aren't they? And the financial uncertainty, there's a theme with me all the time, isn't it? Because we know in local government, like Linda and John will know, we're trying to balance budgets within a local authority. And I know it's all about other means of funding. That's why I always mention the private sector. They play a key part into delivering projects. And John knows, if he's still on the call, that when you delay projects, then the costs go up. So you're always looking for more investment or more money to deliver on. And that's when you either reschedule what you need to do in a different way, which we've all done again in our own local authorities, from levelling up funds and SPF, etc., etc. So I just wondered, a plan B is that it's all well and good highlighting all the risks and failures to deliver on. But what happens if that becomes a reality? What is a legacy? What does it look like? We know within leisure, and I'm not suggesting the plan on this is absolutely fantastic, and I love it. So I'm not trying to be negative, but they struggle to be sustainable. And then usually councils or other means who are getting even further stretched may not be in a position to, and I'm talking from a political sense as well, where we got to wear our tin hats because everything comes at us anyway. Linda and John will know this as well. It doesn't matter who city deals, CJCs, most of our communities haven't got a clue what they are anyway, even though this has been running for 9-10 years now, I believe. John, I always ask Jonathan Burns this as well. It's a worrying time for us all, but we love these projects, and everything that the city deal has done since I joined has been immense. It's absolutely brilliant, and I want to take my hat off to officers and those who pull it all together, because that's no mean feat. I can imagine Jonathan and yourself and others about sleepless nights trying to get us to where we are. But I did want to compliment you on this. I haven't visited it yet, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I hope we are able to find the way to deliver things as we go forward. But I am concerned and worried about the current climate. And I remember what Rob said as well before he left, we still do need a plan. I get all of that, but I do sound a little bit negative because I'm probably in other meetings where I can see the money. We had a WLGA conference or budget seminar with Linda only last week, you know, and Andrea would know, we are all having the information that while this sits outside to a certain degree, it doesn't really, because local authorities are always major players wherever these projects are. So I know I went around the roundabout down the swings again, Alex, but you know me well enough. That's how I do things, isn't it? But I just wondered, Plan B's, changing things, is it something there that you'd look at if and when you have to? Because also the last thing I will say, you can't go on forever pretending to deliver a project. You know, I'd probably be in my box before some of them get completed, potentially. But that's why I'm saying it. It's there's got to be an end time scale to be doing something, because there will not be money there while we keep looking for it. So, diolch, thank you.
So if I'm understanding your question right, Councillor Hunt, I suppose yeah, Plan B. Yeah, Plan B. It's an interesting question. So I think, you know, obviously, you know, Zone 1 is built, you know, so that, you know, so it's definitely there, you know, definitely not pretend, definitely there, you know, and I think, you know, just I suppose in part answers your question. I think we've been really encouraged by initial footfall, initial spend, and things like the cafe, and you know, hugely encouraging in terms of the uptake of the facilities. And you know, just give an illustration of that, since opening on the 15th of October, we've had over 600 new memberships to the leisure facilities, which is fantastic. In the leisure services have relocated from Connectley Leisure Centre, which was in the town centre. And in a normal year, Connectley Leisure Centre would have generated £80,000 worth of profit in the cafe. In the first 3 weeks of operation, the cafe in Carnarvon generated £25,000 worth of profit. So I think initial indications are really good, really positive, in terms of that these facilities are going to be well used, and we are hopefully going to generate sufficient income to make them sustainable. I think in further ask your question, then I think it's a good point in terms of the future zones, because you know, the City Deal injection from our perspective has been fully invested in Zone 1. So zones 2, 3 and 4, we need to ensure are fully sustainable. I'm sure Chris may have something to add to this. But so we've got to ensure before we proceed with zones 2, 3 and 4 that the business case stacks up, and essentially they are going to pay their own way. So there'll be critical decision, for example, with the hotel, when we get to the final tender stage, for, you know, our cabinet to be making a decision about how we move forward on that, because, you know, these are big decisions about how we move forward and ensuring that sustainability of that investment. So I think, you know, so there is going to have to be key decision points as we move forward before we proceed, but and I suppose assurance that they are fully sustainable. So it doesn't really give you the plan B, but I suppose it gives you the assurance that there are still decisions we need to make before we are able to proceed with those future developments.
John, before Chris or Jonathan come in, the other point I was making, Alex, is that you mentioned the nitrates, and you know, while politicians are working hard to get that sorted ASAP, this is why I talk about delays. You sort of touched on it, part of the project will have that negative part that you weren't able to. And as things move on, where costs are going to go up, that's what I was saying, where they would come from to deliver, because the City Deal merging with the CJC, for some reason, Welsh Government think the CJC are the bee's knees. I, for one, don't share that opinion, and Chris and others will know that. I worry about the future of a CJC, if I'm honest, but I'm only trying to be positive in my own way by saying, let's not all pretend everything's going to be popping up like Trump can do in America, I suppose. You know, do what he wants and do what we like. But it was only just a bit of a concern of delays, which we've seen without the nitrates. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve. I'll bring in John first, then Chris. John.
It might be worth the other way around, John, if you're happy, because Chris may be talking about specifically Pentrowel.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, just really following on from what Alex is saying, and actually more to the point, actually giving Steve a bit of reassurance that it has been a bit of a dynamic project. It has changed over the period of time. We did go out to tender on phase 1 or zone 1, and actually the costs were more. County Council had to consider that, and they considered that, and they actually allocated further funding towards that at that point in time. How will that have changed their space since they were in there? Universities have changed their ambition in terms of, so it's been very much dynamic and changing as it going through, and some of the areas we're doing at the moment. So whilst we haven't got a plan B, we got a flexible attitude to try and navigate through what challenges are placed in front of us. And the two key elements now is how we get the hotel over the line and how we get the sort of residential and the assisted living over the line. But that assisted living, for instance, is not at the moment where it was originally on the plan in terms of geographical location on site. So we're managing through a project, and we're making it more dynamic to make sure that we can come out the other end with the right objectives. So if that gives you reassurance, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. Happy with that, Steve? Yep. Okay, John, did you want to come in? I know Shane's gone back down.
Yeah, I wish I went before Chris now, because he kind of stole my thunder. But on a wider portfolio perspective, hopefully, Councillor Hunt, the life cycle of the portfolio, you'll outlive that. I do truly hope that. But the whole purpose of the city deal is having the outline business cases. They are live business cases. As Chris said, there's flexibility within them. We have governance arrangements set up to create flexibility and go through a change management process. That is important for the city deal because it is large, complex, it is a long-term portfolio. So, and we are successfully navigating through that. And what we're finding of the ones that have changed, so things like Switch and APMF within Heathcote Talbot, stuff around the campuses project, Pentre Owl, Pembroke Dock Marine, and I could go on. The value proposition of what we said we would do is actually going up. And because of the rising costs, we are investing more in the region. So there are positives and there are negatives, but we have to maintain that kind of oversight and reporting them through joint committee and other boards just to make sure you have visibility of those things. And I'll cover off some of those bits a little bit later on some positives as well. So I just wanted to cover that around reassurance and assurance of not just Pentre Owl, but across the board.
Okay, thanks very much for that, John. Yeah, I mean, all development projects, certainly of this size, they all tend to be a bit fluid. I know from my time in the development world, there's a bit of fluidity in there, and you're either value engineering or you're replanning or what have you, just to try and keep things within budget and to adapt to changing circumstances as well. So final points from me then. Very pleased to see the active travel element in there, because I don't know Llanelli that way, but it seems to be a little bit on the periphery. So getting the buses coming in, I think, is absolutely great and really good again to see the community benefits and the supply chain impacts. When you're putting public money into a scheme, to get as much benefit out of it that you can is a real positive. So again, thank you all for the presentation, and obviously all your hard work to get into the stage we've got to. So if there's no further comments, this is a report for information, so no sort of resolution to make here other than to just perhaps a quick show of hands to show we're all happy with the update. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you, Rich. Great presentation. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we'll move on then to agenda item 9, I think it is now, which is the future of the Swansea Bay City Deal Programme Management Office, which is an update report. I think this one's across to you, Debbie, yeah?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it's an update report. So again, nothing for you to vote on as such. It's just to give you an update on the progress of transitioning the project, the portfolio management team and the governance arrangements from the City Deal across to the CJC. So as a joint committee, you'll probably recall that you received a report in July this year, which set out all the possible options for dealing with the shortfall in funding that we will experience in due course for the Portfolio Management Office, and to look at options for future, the way that business could be transacted in the future. And the Joint Committee went with the option of transferring the City Deal functions to the CJC transferring the POMO across to the CJC. And the reasons for that were set out in the report. You'll probably recall the benefits that were noted at the time of clearer lines of responsibility, avoiding duplication, making the governance arrangements more streamlined. Lots of duplication in the fact that you've got 2 sets of meetings going on, often with common membership. So it was felt that really it was best the best option was to transfer the City Deal functions across to the CJC, and that was endorsed by both UK and Welsh governments. So since that report in July, what you'll have seen, the easy bit was streamlining meetings. So as you know, the CJC meetings and City Deal meetings happen on the same day. But the more significant changes around the governance, those are taking place now. So each of the authorities will be taking a report through their cabinets and council meetings during the next couple of months. From, well, November, you might already have taken some reports, November through to January. There will be reports to the cabinet and to your council. And the reason that it's got to go to both of them is that cabinet will make a decision on the disbanding of the joint committee for the City Deal and the delegation of functions to the CJC. But in terms of disbanding the scrutiny function of the City Deal, that's got to go to council, because that's a function that only council, full council, can deal with. So back in your respective authorities, you should be seeing those reports go through now or in the next couple of months. And what that means is that once they've gone through your cabinet and your council, they have to go back then to the joint committee, and this joint committee will ratify and make that final decision, and that's going to be sometime in the new year. And when that happens, it's at that point that the City Deal joint committee disappears, and that all the business will be transacted at the CJC. The support needs for this new governance arrangements, those are currently being looked at. And you'll see in the report there's reference to a recruitment of a chief operating officer for the CJC. It's anticipated that that person will be in post in February 26, and that person will be looking at what support needs the new governance arrangements has, how many people will be needed to support those combined functions of City Deal and CJC under one overarching governance arrangement. So the staffing element hasn't yet been resolved, and it won't be resolved for a couple of months. But the purpose of this report is to tell you that that work is in progress, and the reports going through your respective cabinets and councils are doing that job of delegating the functions across from City Deal to CJC. So I'm hoping that gives you a flavour of where we're at, and it should be something that each of the leaders is familiar with, because you should be seeing those reports now on your agenda planning, and you should be seeing them in your diaries.
Yeah, thanks very much, Debbie, for the update. Certainly from the Pembrokeshire perspective, we've got a report going to Cabinet on Monday, and then it rolls on to our full council meeting, I think it's on the 10th of December. So fully aware of that one. So thank you. Andrea.
Yes, likewise, John. We've got a cabinet meeting coming up shortly with this report going to it. It makes complete sense to avoid duplication wherever we possibly can, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yes, thank you. Steve.
Yeah, sorry I jumped the gun earlier, Debbie. So I try to ask it more structured now. I agree with what Andrea and John have said. It'll be coming to us. And now I'm getting back into my political head again now. Scrutiny is important. I think how we communicate and explain what we're trying to achieve here is critical. especially for backbenchers, for those who sit on scrutiny committees from the City Deal and currently CJC's scrutiny committees. So it's how that work goes forward to get us to the outcomes that we want. We know, because John, again, I'm referring to Jonathan all the time now. Yeah, and they know what these scrutiny committees will come back to the CJC with their recommendations. You know, we don't always see eye to eye with everything of the business we carry out. But I think the City Deal officers have done a tremendous job. So this is my question. When they transfer in over, is there still financial support within the City Deal mechanism to be transferred with it to protect those jobs that were sitting outside of the CJC? Because if we're combining everything, there's a financial obligation, I would imagine. And again, what timescales are on those? Because if the City Deal, and I'm not having to go at anybody who's doing tremendous work, when you have, that's why I mentioned earlier, timelines, when you say that should have been finished, the City Deal, done, dusted, signed off, all those jobs, like in the Shared Prosperity Fund that all us leaders and deputy leaders are challenging Welsh Government on, jobs aligned to them, and when they get rid of this, the Shared Prosperity, those jobs are at risk. So I don't want anybody's job to be at risk, especially if the work that we do in it is, as we know, is exceptional. So I just wondered how, that's why I was trying to get that earlier, how does that look like? So if whoever's coming over, are they secure and for how long? And then us communicating how scrutiny is going to work, because that's an important factor for us as politicians. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Just before I bring possibly Debbie in or Chris to respond to that, I can see Wendy's joined the meeting, so welcome, Wendy. Nice to see you. Debbie.
Yes, well, unfortunately, I won't be able to answer some of that because it hasn't yet been decided. So the work that's going on at the moment is just around the getting the legal bits in place. So just the legal function that the City Deal undertakes, getting that transferred to the CJC. Now, how it's going to work in practice and how many people are needed to support that is still to be determined. We will need to consult with Welsh Government and UK Government throughout, because the message that we're getting very clearly from the governments is that they do not want the City Deal brand to be diminished in any way. They don't want the importance of the City Deal to be lost by it being subsumed within the CJC. They want the work to be as important and to the public and to the region as possible. So everything that we do has to have the approval of the governments is the first starting point. You will have to, in your council report, nominate the members that you want to sit on the regional scrutiny committee going forward. So that bit is handled through your committee reports. And your biggest question really was about resourcing and financing and what's all this going to cost, and is it going to save money? Is it going to cost more? Are we going to need fewer people? Are we going to need more people? That bit is yet to be determined, and there are a group of officers undertaking work on that as we speak, and they will be doing that work in conjunction, as I say, consultation rather, with the governments. And you'll be asked to endorse that in due course and what that looks like. But at the moment, we're at the early stages, and we don't know what that looks like yet. Chris might be able to confirm more on the finance side, but my understanding is that there hasn't been that detailed discussion yet about what the money side looks like, because we don't know actually how many people we will need and what it's going to cost.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. Chris?
Yeah, no, that's quite right. The financials of how the individuals come together has not been sorted, but also we got two fundamental accounting processes that we got to operate at the moment, because they are defined separately, CJC under legislation, and the Swansea Bay City Deal has a defined life of 15 years. So we're going to have to run those separately, but the bit more detailed work will come next on this.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I can see your hand's gone up in Linda's office. Not sure if that's Wendy or Linda.
That's me, I'm afraid, Chair. Thank you. Apologies for being slightly late. It's a couple of things I just wanted to raise. I just wanted to record, I did so for the CJC, just a personal interest in terms of being the outgoing SRO for the city deal. But also I'm just conscious that staffing matters and any debate around it is, because we do have the staff here, I'm just conscious as well that we're just mindful of those discussions. If I could just say that. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
No, thank you very much for that, Wendy. I'm sure we're all conscious of that. So I think we'll probably leave it there on any staffing related type issues if everybody's happy to do so. And this is a report for information again. So can I thank you, Debbie, for running through it in significant detail and in terms of sort of the governance side rather, with our various authorities, cabinet reports and council reports leading up to the final decision. So thank you for that. So report for information, just a show of hands to say we're all happy. Yep. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So we'll move then on to agenda item 10, which is the Swansea Bay City Deal Benefit Strategy. So this is one for you, I think, John.
That's right, Chair. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is for approval to the committee. So to give context, as a result of the recent portfolio gateway review we undertook in July, one of the key recommendations, there were two key recommendations. One was to develop this benefits management strategy. So that's what you have in front of you. It's making sure that what we expect to deliver, being the profiles that we have, is actually what we're delivering. And that was also common in the area of focus for the Audit Wales report that we just had. It's under AW13. That's the area of focus about consistency of reporting benefits. So the benefit strategy that you have today has been developed with the City Deal PMO in consultation with all key stakeholders, project delivery teams, governments, etc. And the idea is to communicate the intent and mechanisms to monitor benefits. So ultimately, what are we there to deliver and how do we deliver it, when do we deliver it, etc. So it identifies how we identify the benefits, how we manage them, how we track them across the 9 projects and programs for the Swansea Bay City Deal portfolio. Particularly the important headlines, if you like, and we've talked about these a few times already today, it's ensuring that the investments that we have, the £1.3 billion headline, contribute to sustainable economic growth, job creation, innovation across the region. So have we set out to deliver what we plan to? We also then have an approach to make sure that what we have identified goes through the business cases. When we created outline business cases some 5 years ago, we identified what benefits we were going to look at, who the owners were, the prioritization and categorization of them, baselines for those benefits. And since then, we have adapted and molded those benefits to the current time, if you like. So they are live in that sense. So the 3 common objectives of what the City Deal is, as I said, the investment, economic growth and job creation. The definitions we've already approved some time ago. Those are in the appendix of this strategy. What we also have is what already existed were benefit profiles, registers and maps. They're the artifacts, the documents that all the projects and programs collate. This strategy is effectively an umbrella across what we already have in place. So we aren't creating more work, we aren't creating different ways of doing it. This is just the overarching strategy of what we've already agreed previously. The one thing that is in the strategy that we didn't account for previously, and this was feedback from the project teams, was how do we close down a benefit? So we've realised the benefit, how do we make sure that we report through governance, local and regionally, that we have closed benefits? So what we're going to start doing is collating a dashboard of benefits. We probably have in the region of 120 benefits across the portfolio, because those 3 that I said, the headline ones, there could be up to 24 additional benefits per project. So we'll do a process for closure and we'll do a dashboard for making sure that all the members on this committee and other stakeholders have a summary of where we are in terms of benefits. But the important thing, I guess, for this is around the evaluations. So we are yet to report through a formal evaluation in terms of benefit realisation, apart from digital infrastructure. So they do an annual investment evaluation, and they've done a midterm evaluation. So once we start seeing those evaluations coming through for the City Deal projects, we'll start seeing the things like in wider investment, economic impact, and jobs created ramp up as those come through the pipeline. So, Chair, that's the strategy, that's the kind of outline. It's all detailed in the document as to the definitions and what it means and how we're doing things. But if the committee's happy, we're looking for approval today.
Okay, thank you very much for that, John. I think your last point about evaluations and seeing how that works its way through is obviously vitally important then in terms of sort of delivery and what the schemes are bringing out in terms of job creation, as you say. I'll open up for any questions or comments. None? Okay, that's fine. So again, thank you, John. This is as you say, a report for approval, and the recommendation is that the Swansea Bay City Deal Portfolio Benefits Management Strategy attached to the Appendix A be approved. So once again, I'm happy to move that recommendation. Could I have a seconder?
Happy to second, John.
Andrea just beat you this time, Steve, but thank you. That's great. So thank you, Andrea. Show of hands, all those in favour of approval? Yep, so that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. We'll move on then to agenda item 11, which is the Q2 Financial Monitoring Report for 25-26. And I believe, Stephen, you're going to introduce this one.
Yes, thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, everybody. So this report details the provisional Q2 financial monitoring for the Joint Committee and the Portfolio Investment Fund for this financial year. The report split into several sections, but I draw attention to Appendix A, I believe it's on page 92 of the report pack, where I'll pick out just a few of the key points. You can see the Joint Committee and accountable body expenditure is estimated at 2.149 million. And the Portfolio Management Office has expenditure projected at 538,000. Of this, the POMO staffing costs are 422,000. Income for the year, this is projected at 455 million. So this consists of a drawdown of the top slice of 426,000 and estimated income derived from the cash balances we currently hold of 2.029 million. You notice that the top slice forecast is currently 396,000 less than what was expected when we set the interim budget for the year. We were forecasting higher in-year City Deal grant expenditure. So with regards to the reserves then, the end of 24-25, we had a deficit balance of 255k. So this year, due to the reduction in the top slice being generated, we are projecting a further deficit of almost 350,000. So this then will leave our forecast reserve deficit of about 605,000 to be carried forward into future years. So although this is a deficit, this is primarily down to timing issue of the top slice income being generated, and it will be offset in future years of the City Deal. If we move on then to the Portfolio Investment Fund, so considering the published variance report from Q4 last year, 24-25, and high levels of variances across the portfolio, we use Q1 of this year as an opportunity to reprofile the portfolio. So as of Q2, the overall investment position is just over 1.389 billion. This compares well with Q1, which Q1 was just 0.6 million higher. So we are on target to what we said from Q1. So therefore, there's no significant variances to report this quarter on the portfolio. But if we look at the annual investment forecast, so this is what we're expecting to spend this financial year. So we are now projecting 175 million. So that's the City Deal grant, private sector and public sector. So this is demonstrating an overinvestment of 12.6 million. This is mainly due to the HAPS project, which is reporting overachievement in the public sector leverage of 16.2 million. It's due to higher than forecast number of homes across the region benefiting from the installation of renewable technologies. And the SILIG projects that are supporting innovation, low carbon growth, they are demonstrating an in-year underspend of 3.6 million for the Switch project. This is in relation to the Tata Transition Fund, funding, with delays in agreeing the lease and funding documentation with the Swansea University. So moving on to the private sector, we mentioned this earlier. We monitor the private sector on a quarterly basis, and some projects, in particular the digital infrastructure project, are overachieving. To end of Q2, 170 million of private sector funding has been achieved, which is about 24% of the private sector projection of 719 million. And this makes up about 29% of the total portfolio spend to date. So with this private sector investment, most projects are forecast to achieve their private sector towards the back end of the delivery. And we have 180 million forecast in 26-27 and 245 million projected to be forecast in 27-28. So we've got a lot more to come from the private sector, and that should be hopefully happening over the next few years. So to conclude, the Q2 financial profile is forecast to be less than 1 million compared to the Q1 financial profile, and there's positive overachievement in the public sector leverage this financial year. So thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy for any questions or observations. Diolch.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you again for a very comprehensive run through of that. Some positives coming out of there, I think. It's certainly the private sector investment side on the digital projects. That's really, really good news, isn't it? I was going to open it up for questions. Steve's already got his hand up. Steve, come on in.
You know what I'm like to know, but sorry if it's stupid question, Stephen, again. But I'm just trying to get my head around some things. Sure. A lot of it goes over my head, to be honest with you. But with the previous conversations about the Swansea City deal going into the CJCs, are the bodies standing alone? You just mentioned it has the ability to attract private investment, grants, etc. When it becomes combined with the CJC, will it be able to sit alone to get that investment as well, or will that all be lost when it becomes one body if it's under CJC? I'm just trying to get my head around that, because it does very well in its own right, but if it's going to be combined, what is the opportunities for investment into that programme, I suppose? Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I'll bring Chris in on that because he's got his hand up. Chris.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. And I was going to come in and just actually reference your earlier conversation and point out that actually, if you look at page 88, that probably gives you the summary of where the investment is, which you can have a look at afterwards between the private and public. But coming back to your specific question, the Swansea Bay City deal has been a defined period for a defined number of projects, and we're going to have to report on those all the way through. So the investment being drawn on those projects is still going to be there. And bear in mind, each of the projects, whilst it's all facilitated by the Swansea Bay City deal, they are linked very much to the individual county councils. So the county councils will guarantee that investment because they're doing the project. So if you take the arena project, it's up and running in Swansea. Pendrawell's partway through at the moment. So all that investment is still going to flow, immaterial what happens in terms of the operational activity merging in any shape or form with the CJC. So that may be coming together, but these projects, we've got a 15-year period, we've got to deliver the outputs, and that's guaranteed to actually deliver in that context.
Okay, thanks, yeah. Chris. That thumbs up from Steve. Hands gone up in Linda's office. You again, Wendy, or is that Linda?
Yeah. Just to add, Steve, you'll probably recall as well, the CJC has now been given legislative powers to be grant-receiving bodies. So what that will do will actually strengthen the case for pulling in potentially that private sector interest as well.
So on that, then just very quickly, John, I don't want to prolong the meeting. So if I know Chris said lifetime and it's going to be signed off, is that the end of the city deal at the end date? So that what I would try to get at, what Wendy has sort of alluded to, is that pulling any grants or funding in to that sort of body. But if it gets signed off that it's gone, city deal no longer exists, can the CJC then pull money in to projects that were built in the city deals capacity? That's the point, not new projects, but anything that's part of it. Because I sometimes get an understanding of how grant bodies work, and sometimes they'll say, no, you can't do that, but maybe there's nobody on the call who perhaps understands that mechanism of how grants work, I suppose. Thank you.
My personal, sorry.
Go on, Chris, I was going to bring you in, not a problem.
Yeah, I was going to say my personal opinion is what you'll probably see is the CJC, that if there's any new growth deals in the future, that they will become the instrument to actually develop them. We didn't have CJCs when Swansea Bay was set up. That was defined, that's being monitored. But I see CJCs taking over some of that role, and that's why there's sense in the merger we're doing. There wasn't anything specific, I don't think, yesterday on the budget for Wales as such, but growth deals was mentioned. So whether there's a new growth deal that comes in the future of some shape or form, we've got to wait and see.
Okay, thanks for that, Chris. Okay, so if there's no further comments, I can't see anybody indicating, we'll move to the recommendation. This is a report for approval again, and it's recommended that the financial monitoring update report be approved. So once again, I'm more than happy to move that recommendation. Can I have a seconder? Oh, Linda, thank you very much. That's great. Okay, so just all those in favour then, please show. Yep, that's approved. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on then to agenda item 12, which is the Swansea Bay City Deal Portfolio Monitoring Quarter 2 25-26 report. And I think this is back to you, John.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, this is for information for the committee members. I'll start again, as I usually do, with the overarching updates for the portfolio. Then I'll just update on a few of the project updates by exception. So the scorecard is the first report or dashboard summary. This is the red, amber, green. Skills scope change from amber to green, moving the overall status of the project to green, which is great news. Digital finance also moved from amber to green, with the overall status then moving to green. Eregin scope moved from amber to red, moving the overall status to red. And I think that's more around, there's currently an evaluation going on for Eregin phase 1, and then there's the development of what phase 2 could entail. And then Niche, which is the National Institute for Sports and Health, formerly Campuses Project, their delivery moved from red to green, and finance moved from red to amber, which again is a movement in the right direction. And the overall status for Niche now is green. So the details are provided in the cover report if anybody would like to look at those. But again, as I said, lots of things move in the right direction. In terms of risks and issues, they remain as they were in the previous quarter. There's 3 red risks, 3 red issues. So I won't go through the detail on those because we've covered those a lot in previous quarters. Portfolio benefits, there's a movement in job creation, 912 to 982 within the quarter, mainly down to Pentre Owl and Holmes's power stations. These are incremental changes, as I say, most quarters. Once we get the evaluations, we should see then a large jump in the wider impact of the projects that we're working through. In terms of investment, Stephen's already updated it, but 536 million in previous quarter to 588 million. So again, all moving in the right direction. We have had a few changes around, particularly around procurements. So the first one was around low carbon, Switch and APMF. Switch, the on-site date moved from quarter 3 25 to quarter 4 25. So it's only a month movement there. And APMF, there's a few dates in there, but the site date to get on site moved from quarter 4 26 to quarter 2 27. So there's a couple of quarter movements there. And then the National Institute for Sports and Health, that's the building on Singleton. Completion date moved from quarter 3 26 to quarter 4 27. So we are working with all the projects to make sure that they update their change notifications and any change requests as a consequence of that in the process, and those will feed into their business case updates. In terms of project updates, I probably wouldn't do any justice to Pentre Owl after what Alex and Rich presented. That's very comprehensive and moving. Well, now it's open, and there's the thing that we didn't mention, Chris, was the official launch date, which is the 11th of December. So just for noting that's happening. Support innovation, low carbon growth. The only thing I'd like to highlight on that is the great news that the heads of terms with Swansea University are now agreed and signed, so that can move forward. Skills and talent. There's a change notification in your packs. Reprofiling the skills and talent program, public and private investment. And Councillor Hunt, this comes back to your point in terms of confidence of private sector funding. What we had originally in the business case was £16 million of public funds, 4 million of private. We have now basically reversed that, so it's 4 million of public, 16 million of private. That's the forecast. So it's basically flipped, which is brilliant news. That's proof that we are working with industry, developing pilots and curriculum and skills development for business need. So for me, that's a massive win. The City Deal funding remains the same at 10 million. So you've got that change notification in your packs covering that. Digital infrastructure, they recently did a procurement around better broadband infill project. The delivery team and the board are now established, so that is in delivery, which is great news again. Homes as power stations, they've got a supply chain fund as part of Homes as power stations. The call went out. Nobody was successful in receiving the initial call. They've now gone to our private sector advisory board, got a steer on what they could do to reshape that call for the supply chain fund. And they're in the process of now getting that back out to try and get businesses in the supply chain to apply for those funds. And what they've effectively done is broaden the scope of what they're looking at. So again, a positive move for that. I've already mentioned within the quarter that Campuses project, which is around sports and health, they've now rebranded to the National Institute of Sports and Health, and a change request went through joint committee back in July. There's lots of other updates in the quarterly monitoring. I probably can't do it justice within a 10-minute update, but I'd urge you all, if you haven't, to have a read through those. And if there's any questions that you have, you can come back to myself or the PMO to ask any questions. But Chair, it's for information, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, John. Again, very positive report. I think, especially in terms of the additional jobs created, and as you said there, the private sector versus the public sector flipped in terms of investment. Andrea's got a hand up. Andrea, come on in.
Yes, thank you, John, and thank you for the update. A huge amount in this report. Just in terms of encouraging the private sector to take up the Homes as Power Stations model and funding, is there anything that we could do through our networks to try and promote that? And if so, apologies, it's such a dense report. How much funding are we talking about?
£7 million of City Deal funding. And to answer your question, Andrea, absolutely. The more that we promote this through our networks, we have the HAPS team have a supply chain manager, Alec. He works with lots of businesses within the region. But the whole point of it is within the region and to attract people to the region as well. So, in terms of the broad communication of this and the opportunity of it, yes, that will be a really good help.
That's great. I'm sure we can help through our networks to help promotion. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, John. Any further comments from anybody? No. Okay, can I thank you, John? Very comprehensive report. Lot of stuff going on and a lot of stuff really coming to fruition now, so it's very pleasing to see. So again, this is a report for information. Are we all happy to note the report? Yeah, okay, brilliant. Great, so that brings us on to our final item of today then, which is agenda item 13, Swansea Bay City Deal Joint Committee Forward Work Programme. And I think, again, this is back to you, John.
Thanks, Chair. This is for approval. So the Joint Committee Work Plan, we provide this on a 6 to 12 monthly update. This is the current update that we have in front of us. So it summarises planned activity across the portfolio. We will update it, as I said, every 6 months, but the actions and activities within them are categorised into governance, communication, engagement, legal and finance. There's nothing I need to highlight, Chair, in the report in terms of what we have there. Relatively standard as a cycle of what we do going forward. But we are looking to Joint Committee to agree and approve the plan, and we'll bring the next update then within the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much, John. All seems pretty straightforward to me. Any comments from any members, any colleagues? No. Nope. Okay, on that basis then the recommendation is that the forward work plan at Appendix A be approved. So again, more than happy to move that. If I could get a seconder. Andrea, thank you. All those in favour? Show. Yep, that's approved. So thank you very much, John. So that brings us to the end of today's meeting. So many thanks to you all for your attendance, particularly officers for the reports they presented today. They've been very comprehensive, and I know there's a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into those. So my thanks to you all for that. And I'll catch up with you soon. And if you can possibly do it, enjoy your afternoon. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, half an hour before we finished anyway. So even with me up in the way.
You got time to get